it is a narrative feature that has the look and feel of a documentary. And it's 107 minutes, it's M-rated, and it's based on actuality. It's based on the recorded minutes of what is probably a conference unlike any other in history, and the worst, most barbaric conference that I could possibly imagine. We're talking about the 20th of January 1942. High-ranking Nazi officials meet at a mansion southwest of Berlin to plot what was known as the final solution to the Jewish question. And that involved 90 minutes of discussion about how to rid Europe of its remaining Jews. The purpose, of course, is to secure Aryan purity. Of course, the mass slaughter of Jews was already well in train, but the idea was to escalate this to a far higher level. The debate centred around efficiencies of scale, along with the method of elimination and disposal, and it involved a sweep of all Jews to what are called final solution spaces. Not all of those attending were in agreement because there were greater burdens on some than others, and a number were particularly hard-nosed, equating Jews with vermin. One spoke with authority about the success of the cleansing process in the territory for which he was responsible. Another concerned himself with the ammunition and time it would take to shoot dead, now wait for this, 11 million people. And of course we know that 6 million Jews died, and gypsies and many others, in the Holocaust. The psychological damage to those tasked with the responsibility of killing the Jews was also an issue that was discussed. And then a quicker, more robust system was canvassed and signed off. So the conference is a fictionalised account of what is unquestionably the most horrific conference in history, and follows the minutes of this meeting as recorded by Adolf Eichmann. Only one copy of that, the minutes, remains, and that's a key document pertaining to the Holocaust. Shocking to watch a group of men devoted to Hitler coldly discussing mass murder on a scale never before attempted. And during breaks, they tuck into delicacies. I mean, yeah, you look at that, you just, it makes your heart go cold. It's heavily dialogue driven, and I reckon most will find what unfolds incredibly hard to stomach, and so they should. As a reflection of history, it's shocking to contemplate. Also important to note and appreciate so that something like this is never allowed to happen again. And what struck me most was the mercenary characterisation by many of the actors, lurching towards gleeful, and obviously that was purposeful. The writers, the director, they've crafted a truly devastating but an important work, because, I mean, these are not human beings who discuss things in the way that they discuss them. It's a very, very, very hard watch, and for those people who don't like, they're in a conference room for most of this time, and then there's ante-rooms and so forth. So that in itself is not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but it's fantastic that they have recorded this. So the oppression of the Nazi regime, the barbarity of the regime is just laid bare, and that's the point of all of this. It's called The Conference. Peter, you start.
Look, I was able to visit Wannsee, which is the destination of the conference, which is a seaside resort about 3/4 of an hour from the centre of Berlin. And obviously walking around the area, seeing some of the buildings that have survived, etc., is just an incredible sensation and experience. What Matti Geschonek has done, an East German director who's made a number of very good art house films, he has made this as a very clinical approach to this conference about the final solution. And what he's done is he's really directed this in a very clinical and carefully constructed sort of way to demonstrate the horrors without going over the top, without having any histrionics or anything like that. And in fact, in the way that each of these Nazis discuss bringing millions of people to their death in such a sort of a pleasant atmosphere of tea and coffee and cake and all that sort of thing, exacerbates, I think, the horror, as you've described, of the situation. It's very well directed. The acting is finely attuned. The characterizations are so well performed by the various actors to portray the range of Nazis who were in the front line of determining this final solution. And it's a major highlight for me, a film that must be seen, not to be enjoyed, of course, but to be savoured for what was a major process that was happening by the National Socialists in the 1940s. So, a highly recommended film.
Well, I mean, it's not a documentary, but it's got the documentary feel. So it's a fictionalised account because you don't know where people are, walking or whatever. So that but it has got that documentary feel, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It does. So that's where I meant that clinical approach. It is narrative, of course, but it is based on much of the original minutes and documents that were available at the time.
Dave, what did you think of it?
Yeah, I was surprised how difficult I found to watch this film. I love horror. It's one of my favourite genres, and I can sit down and watch a movie about a psycho massacring an entire family and not blink an eyelid. But this movie, I found it really, really difficult to watch. Like Peter said, it's so clinical, and the way that the different characters just come out with lines like you said, do you know how difficult it would be to shoot 1 million people that way? I found it really, really difficult to watch, and I think the reason I found it so difficult to watch is that when I watch a horror movie, I know it's not real. When I watch this, I know that this really happened, and I know that this was a meeting that led to my grandmother having to flee Europe to escape this. So it really... It hit me hard watching this film. I'll admit that. It was a difficult watch, but at the same time, I think it helped me understand more as well. To be honest, I found this a more difficult watch than when I did Schindler's List, simply because of the fact that these people were real people and being so matter-of-fact about what they were talking about. But at the same time, I take my hat off to the director, because the director has done a fantastic job. I feel that the fact that this movie was difficult for me to watch comes from the brilliance of the screenwriter and the director. So, yeah, a hard watch, but I think an important film for people to watch as well.
One day I wish that you would go and visit Yad Vashem, which is the World Holocaust Remembrance Centre, and that changes you, and it should change you. And people, Jews, non-Jews, people who care about the world and care about their fellow man, and I mean that generically, should go to Yad Vashem, because, and this is not like that, but it's part and parcel of, this is where people who are Holocaust deniers and so forth, I've got absolutely no time for any of them, because this was just chilling. So I agree, it's a film that needs to be seen. Anybody who sits there and watches it will find it hard to sit through. It's a film that I'm giving an 8 out of 10 to. What about you, Peter?
Look, the same mark. And I just mentioned also in Berlin, the Holocaust Memorial is absolutely incredible, walking through those blocks of stone and marble and experiencing what the multiple deaths, obviously, that happened at the time. Just incredible. Anyway, 8 out of 10.
For the conference. And what
Yes.
about you, Dave?
Yeah, 8 out of 10 from me as well. And of course, if you can't travel overseas, the Holocaust Museum in Elsternwick is a place to go and visit as well. I remember going there as a teenager and, just leaving a completely different person.
Yeah, understood. By the way, we spoke about Salman Rushdie